Hey man, I totally dig my UCO candle lantern, but what about those expensive candles? What can I do about that?
Hello, I'm Mike. Let's talk candles, shall we? So, there's a lot of interest these days in candles again for camping. I don't know, I thought it was dead, but here it's back. We're going to talk today about, a couple of candles and things about candles and using them, but we're going to also talk about how you can get candles that are going to fit your UCO candle lantern for cheap. So, it must have been back in the 1970s, 80s, I remember, that these candle lanterns were starting to come into the vogue. They were popular. The reason was that batteries and flashlights sucked back in the day. They didn't last long, they weren't that bright, they weren't reliable at all. So believe it or not, only as late as the 80s, which probably seems like ancient times, this is better than nothing. So I remember many times going over late at night. We'd be in camp looking over the maps for tomorrow, planning our adventures, and this did it. One candle light is not bright, but it produces light, produces some warmth. So nowadays, people are using them for ambiance, obviously, and to provide some warmth, keep the humidity out of the tent, and keep the scary guys, scary animals away from the from the campsite. Another thing I like is people like looking at a flame when they're camping, and I don't always like making a campfire. I think it's too much. In the summertime it's too hot, a lot of work, a lot of time. But with a candle, it's okay. It's a kind of substitute. You got your stoves, so you can cook your food on your stoves, so you don't need a campfire. Some people don't even cook their food. So anyway, it's there's reasons to use them. This company, UCO, by the way, they're great customer service. They're not paying me. They give this thing to me. I've had this for years and years, but I did have to call them for some customer service stuff on some other products, and they're the first class. So what can we do to get these candles cheaper? It's a great thing. This is a real UCO candle. Looks like this. They can cost anywhere from $1.50 to $5 each. A little bit expensive, I guess, depending on who you are, if you think that's a lot of money. So you're tempted to do something. If you go on YouTube, you're going to find guys that show you how to make these candles yourself. And that's what I tried the first time, because I have plenty of candles. That's what I came up with. It works. It was a mess. Took a lot of time. When I was over and done with it, I said I got better things to do with my time than making these candles. Then the next thing is I happened to be at my local thrift store, St. Vincent de Paul, and they had these candles. Now, as it turns out, these candles exactly fit the UCO candles. Here, this is the real deal, and here is the candle that happens to be 3 centimeters, which is exactly what fits inside the UCO. So I'm not going to promote the idea of making your own candles. I think everybody's got better time or better use of their time than making candles, even taking a nap. But if you go to your local thrift store, here's what you're looking for. You're looking for these dimensions. The total length of the candle from the top to the bottom is 9.5 centimeters. Yes, not inches. You're going to have to get the other side of your ruler, which shows centimeters, and then the shoulder from here to here is 7.5 centimeters. Now, if you have a flat top candle, just take your knife and whittle a point in it. And then the critical thing is the diameter, which happens to be 3 centimeters exactly. Now, if you are lucky enough to find this candle, 3 centimeters diameter, and of course it's long, you just take a hot knife and you cut it into the 9.5 centimeter lengths. I bought these candles for 50 cents. I get 3 candles out of it. That's cheap. So the other thing is I found some candles that were close but not exact. So instead of 3 centimeters, they might have been 3.5 centimeters or 4 centimeters. So what I did was I just took the candle, I took a knife, and I cut it around there. You can see, you know, for sitting around the TV with the wife, you know, was I wasting time? Yeah, but you know, sometimes I waste time. So for about 15 cents a candle, but 15 cents. Don't waste your time, make it your own. It's a mess, still costs money. Go to the thrift store, they got tons of candles. Start looking for the fat ones, 3 centimeters or a little bit bigger, and shave them down. So for anybody that doesn't know how to use the UCO candle, let me show you how this works. So, you know, pretty easy. You got your wick there. I always light the wick, you know, take my match or my lighter, I hold it there, and then it lights. There may be a different way, it's the only way that I know. So then you pull up like this, and you have your candle in a nice convenient position. Now that's good enough, that's pretty clever in itself, but what people love is the mechanics of this. And then you turn this bottom like this, and the candle assembly comes out. Then you unscrew this, and this is kind of it's the brilliance of the candle, the intelligence of it, but it's also a shortcoming. So you see this piece here? You may lose this piece. If you do, you can use a coin, like maybe a Mexican peso, one of the bigger ones. You might be able to use a quarter. You got your candle, fits in here. Now you'll notice that there's a window here for you to see how much candle you have. The spring comes up, goes in. Then you have to seat this by turning. And then you put this in here. So, and here's your window, by the way. Here's the window so that you can see how much candle you have left. Eventually, you know, if you had this thing and you kept it lit, it would go and go and go. You'd never have any problems with wax buildup. But you're walking in the tent, you hit it, or it wiggles, or somebody knocks it over on the table. Now you got wax inside, and wax will get on that spring mess. If that happens, take the candle out, take a teapot of hot water, pour it all over, and the wax will melt down. And if you do, by the way, so let's imagine that happens, you want to take it apart. So you take it like this. And then you take your hot water, pour it out, or pour it on, let all the wax melt out. And then I would turn this back right side up and pour it one more time to get the wax through. So that's how you do that, hot water to clean the wax off. Again, 1, oops, 2, it'd be too easy to screw up, but not really. 3. And that's it. And then this conveniently comes down, locks in place. I've hung this from my tent, and the flame from the candle has never gotten hot enough to cause me any troubles. So you can hang that with a relative degree of confidence. I've had these knock over on the table, didn't catch anything on fire, so they're fairly safe. You want to keep them away from your fuel, so if you happen to have your stove fuel and it's liquid fuel. You don't want to have your candle lantern right here and then be pouring fuel into your stove, something like that. That would be foolish. That's the way that you do it. Another to mention is this is actually a Coleman brand. I don't think they make it anymore, but they make similar. Stansport, I think, makes it. These use tea candles, which is super. When I go camping, I put 3 of them. These will burn long enough for me to fall asleep. So I put 3 of them in, put the lid on, maybe 4. And then I put the lid on. And then it carries them for me. That's great too. And by the way, Tiki brand makes a kerosene piece that it's a tea-like kerosene disposable. I'll show you one in a minute. But I'll tell you this, kerosene, they make kerosene, what do you say, like a kerosene bottle that goes in here, and it's with the wick on it. I used one of those. Kerosene leaks. It's an oil, gets out. When it gets on stuff, it is a mess. It stinks forever. If it gets on your food, it will stink. You have to throw your food away. I don't think it's worth using kerosene. I mean, it's a little bit cheaper. Maybe it burns a little bit longer, but it's messy, So, I wouldn't use kerosene. But if you're interested, Tiki does. I'll show it to you. This is the Tiki kerosene. I don't remember where I got this. I might have got it at the dollar store. But you'll notice that it fits inside these tea candle lanterns. I don't know how well it's going to work because the wick is so close to the top. Maybe not quite ideal. In any event, I would stick with candles anyway. I mean, tea candles are so cheap that you might as well just use tea candles. This, by the way, is the leftover of a UCO candle. Sometimes I'll put this in my pocket if I'm going to the thrift store, and then if I happen to be going down the aisle, I'll take it and hold it up against the bottom of the candle and see if it's the right diameter. You don't have to worry about rulers and all that other stuff. If it fits, I bring it home, I got another candle. So that's it. I'll give you one more piece of advice. I've heard recommendations of people saying buy the cheap candles from China. I don't recommend that. China, love the guys, but I have had Chinese candles that exploded on me. They were scented, they had, I think, maybe alcohol in it, burning, the whole thing caught on fire, wax everywhere, burning, flaming up. You don't want that happening when you're camping. I mean, if you happen to have it in your tent or, somewhere, the last thing you need is an unexpected, uncontrolled fire. So I'm going to say stick with the real deal. The thing I like about these old candles is, guess what? Made most likely in the United States. So that's good for me. All right, that's it. Cheerio. Happy candle lighting.